What's going on, everybody? This is Cooper here from the Back Pins. Unfortunately, due to scheduling, we do not have James with us today, but it's been a crazy busy week. I've been from Sioux Falls to Everett, Washington, Tacoma, Washington, and Tulsa, Oklahoma in the span of about 10 days. The PBR has been rolling strong, putting on bull riding, so I've been helping with this run, and it's created a big headache for us as far as trying to get content to you guys. So I just wanted to explain all that of why we're not having a normal episode here today. But instead, what I did is I started working on an interview mix-up where we're going to have highlights from each guest we've had on this podcast so far and just kind of put different clips in there that kind of talk about different things. I think you guys will enjoy it. We apologize for the lack of regular content. We will get back to normal next week. I will be in North Dakota by Sunday, so that will definitely give us enough time to get an episode out early next week. But without further ado, grab them slides, boys, because we're coming at you from the back pins. Our first interview we're going to have in this mix-up episode is going to be Cord McCoy. Cord was a really fun guy to interview. Number one, he's a great guy. And if you can't get along with Cord, you might want to check yourself because Cord's an awesome guy. He's always got a smile on his face. Just an all-around great guy. And on top of that, he not only rode bulls at the highest level, but he's a contractor at that level now. And he's newly appointed coach of the Oklahoma Freedom for the PBR team series. So there's a lot of interesting stuff we got when we interviewed Cord about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. And so I just kind of pulled some of the highlights, I think. Cord's interview had a little bit of everything in it. We talked about his rodeo days. We talked about his bulls and being a stock contractor now. And we also get into the new PBR team series. So there's a little bit for everybody in this one, so sit back and enjoy it. I am here with five-time IPRA world champion, a 2005 NFR bull riding qualifier, 6 times of the PBR finals, 3 times on the Amazing Race, PBR and PRCA stock contractor, had his own TV show on RFD TV, and newly appointed coach of the Oklahoma Freedom, and all-around great guy. Cord, how's it going?
Oh, it's going good, Coop. All that stuff kind of ran together until the very last comment. All around great guy. That meant more to me than all the rest. And so we kind of played the weather. I had to get up and load bulls at 3:00 in the morning to just try to beat the first ice storm that rolled in here. So we've been feel like we've been kind of locked up in a hotel room for a couple of days, just getting ready to ride bulls. I feel like we made the right decision though. The bulls been here in Searcy, Arkansas. They've been cuddled up, laying on shavings for about 3 days, so they're ready to buck. I think I'm excited about it. We did make that mistake. I think we went to Milwaukee and ran into a couple storms. The bulls, they spent way longer on the truck than I really felt comfortable with. We got there, they had to sleep on frozen ground, and I think it's events like that, and those bulls buck, and you win bull of the event and stuff. The experience they've had the last 3 and 4 days. That's when you're so proud of them. But, I guess if you make the same mistake twice, that's when you're kind of making a problem.
Going off of your riding days, was the plan always to become a stock contractor, or did that just kind of fall into place?
No, it definitely fell into place. I feel like I've been blessed kind of just being in the right spot at the right time quite a bit. Even the last year that I rode, I don't think I even thought that much about that. I think I was at JW Hart Invitational in Decatur, and I'd got on a bull and got bucked off and was dragging my bag back to the truck. And the guy chased me down. I was like, "Hey, you want this check? You want this check?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, your bull won second," and handed me a check for like $4,500. And they kind of hit me like a train. I'm like, "What the heck am I doing? Why?" I've got a good set of bulls, and I felt like I was getting in the bulls' way. Like the bulls needed to be at the top events, and I was, I needed to go to a lower level. And I'd always told myself that, I wanted to quit at the top. I've seen so many of those guys ride their way all the way to the top and then, work their way all the way back down to riding your local open rodeo, at 50 years old. And I was like, I told me I was not going to do that. As much as I loved it, I was not going to do that. So I kind of stepped out of the bull's way in the same arena there at the ranch that had been my practice pen for how many years, became the bull's training facility. And the first couple of years, I'd raise these bulls up and I'd train them, kind of get them to the PBR, and then I'd swap them. I mean, I'd sell them to, Chad Berger, K-Bar C, DNH, this kind of changed just a couple of years ago where, they were controlling the price. They were controlling how much my bull was worth. I mean, I would get those bulls and they would come right out of the PBR finals. They'd be like, 3,500, but I had, no other, ways to go about it. Other people buying them. And I still remember sitting there in Vegas thinking, well, I can haul them just like you can. This is as recent as 3 years ago. And now we're here in Little Rock with 17 head on the roster. And it felt like it started from just those guys picking the price. To go back for the rodeo, the McCoy rodeo deal, we've got a lot of young bulls coming up that need jobs. And, that's where the rodeo thing came from. But being an old rodeo guy, man, you don't want to go produce any rodeo and bring a bunch of bulls to try out. So those other bulls still need to practice, because when we're producing a rodeo, it says right on the top, McCoy rodeo, produce the best event we can. We try to line them up for success, and pretty proud of that. Last year we had 6 rodeos. I mean, they were some good hopping, spinning bulls. Kind of no re-ride bulls, and everybody got a shot to win. What I would want, and when I'm in the pasture of bulls and pins, creating that roster, I'm like, this guy might not add as much money as Houston, San Antonio, Denver, but if I enter Cord's rodeo, I know I'm going to go get on a good bull. And I always keep that in mind when we're building that roster.
Absolutely. And I know that bull riders today do pay attention to that stuff, especially on the rodeo end. If they don't like a pen of bulls, they're not going to go. So That's a really good way to keep numbers up, for sure.
Yeah. They're going to tell their friend too.
You're in Little Rock, and you're not only competing with some of your top end bulls like Riding Solo, Diddy Wah Diddy, and all that. You're busting out some young ones in the classic round tonight. How much different is it for you as a contractor bringing these classic bulls to these kind of events? Because it's such a change from a normal bull riding or normal event when you get them in that environment with the loud music, the pyro, and then the pressure that these guys put on these bulls. What are you looking for to know that a bull is ready, or how nervous does it make you get when you're not quite sure about a bull?
Yeah, you do get more nervous than anything. I mean, it's like it's like your little kid. I mean, you can show them, teach them, walk them through it. It was starting to rain and snow at the house there, and I give one last walkthrough on some of the younger bulls before they came here. I mean, that's your thought and your pressure on you. But it's like Tulsa time. He grew up right there on the ranch. You feel like every experience that he's had. All his twerks about him that make him change, make him click. There's no real good way to find out other than put his name on the list, let one of the top 35 riders guys get on him and open the gate. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. But you try to prep those bulls, I mean, as much as you can. But more than when I used to ride, you'd wait till Tuesday or Wednesday for that draw list to come out. And now I'm a stock contractor, and I sit there and hit refresh. I got to see who's got what bull. And so that you're kind of playing that game. Even when we're feeding those bulls last night, you're like, oh man, Night Moves has got Chase Outlaw. Don't give him too much. This is for the win. And so you're trying to prep those bulls for it. But it's like being a baseball coach though. When you're building that roster, some guys make the team and some guys don't, and you have the pressure to you make that decision. And if you put his name on that list, you're standing beside it and it says, Cord McCoy, and it'll say either Cord McCoy did good or Cord McCoy screwed up.
You guys put so much time, effort, and resources into making these bulls, or giving them as best a chance as they can have to succeed. I think the average fan watching on TV doesn't realize that. And it makes total sense to me that it probably gets more nerve-wracking to watch your bull go than to ride when you're riding days, because so much of it's out of your control. All you can do is have that bull in as good a shape possible and healthy, and the rest is up to him. Is that the way it is? It's a lot more nerve-wracking to watch him than versus when you were riding.
It is, and you feel like you, as a rider, you train, and then you just crawl over there and do your job. And when I get up in the morning, I'm thinking about each of these bulls and what they need, how they're feeling, and then as soon as they buck, you're scratching your head of like, what to do next. Where does he go next? how do I make changes to get that little quarter point better than what he's performing today. So yeah, I think there's a lot more pressure being a stock contractor, but it sure doesn't hurt near as bad.
One of the bulls that probably everybody that watches PBR knows of is 612 riding solo. And he's currently tied with Whoopah as the lead in the world title bull race. Yep. And we were talking off air. These two have dueled previously. This is not a new thing. When was the first time these two really battled? Was it their 2-year-old year?
I think they had to run into each other their 2-year-old year, but Whoopah I think he had a better yearling year. And then, of course, Riding Solo won the world title the 2-year-old year. Whoopah kind of, I would say, more developed as a 3-year-old. Solo went to the PBR World Finals as a 3-year-old. But as far as the public actually introducing those two bulls together, would have been, maybe the fall of their 4-year-old year, the Classic Finals, when they kind of dueled it out. When that's when we run to South Dakota the weekend before and then turn around and run back. And the funny thing is, Laramie Wilson, the guy that pulls the trigger on Whoopah, there were several weekends that even the Futurity year or Classic year that we'd have to go somewhere else and Solo would have to be there. Me, Sarah, Laramie, or Katie is the only 4 people that I know of that's ever pulled the trigger on Solo. There was a few times that if Solo beat Whoopah, it was going to be because of Laramie. He would haul him to a couple of events. So I always thought that was pretty cool. That's the kind of sport that we're in.
So speaking of kind of some of the growth that bull riding is going through right now, Bonner Bolden has brought to the table a platform for fantasy bull riding. And as a former sports guy, fantasy sports are very popular amongst MLB, NFL fans. What do you know about Rank Ride, and what do you think it can add to the experience for a fan?
Oh, I definitely think it could add to the experience. I mean, you take anything going on, but if you put a little skin in the game, if you invest in it, or you say, I'm making a commitment that this one is better than that one, or this is what it's going to be, I think it always makes it a little bit more entertaining. Maybe that's it. You got a better reason to follow, a better reason to root something on, or to root against something else. Yeah, I think it's a pretty cool addition to bull riding. We're always looking at different stats, different breeding programs, different training stuff for all the riders. It's cool that I feel like the fans now can look at the same information, can study the same thing, and make that same investment on the other end. I'm rooting on. I think it's a pretty cool deal.
The PBR announced their team league, and you got named the coach of the Oklahoma Freedom. What did that mean to you to be a part of the team series, number one, but then be named a head coach? What does that mean to you personally?
Originally, when they announced it in New York, it was such a huge honor. I mean, just to be one of those 8 guys, the regional team coaches. But you go back to the hotel room that night, you don't sleep at all. You're thinking of different strategies of like what to do, how to do it, how to make the best group of guys that you can. So it is a little bit of added stress. I mean, I hate to put it straight that way, but you gotta go win. I mean, I think that's any coach that's out there, figuring out your strategy, how you're going to go about it, what group of guys you're going to draft, how you're going to coach them, what your style is going to be, so then you even go back to, what do I wish I would have known, wish I would have studied, wish I would have had as I was going through, steps 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to give it to those guys. And then you watch bull riding a little different. Maybe I need 3 lefties, 3 righties. And, now I stand behind the chutes and I watch every guy a little bit different. For a while, I feel like I just watched the bulls. But now you want to see their tendencies. And not that you're picking apart those guys riding. I mean, these are the top 35 bull riders in the world. So there's only so much coaching you do. You talk about baseball. By the time they get to college or majors, they've kind of already picked their style, and this is how they got there. There's only so much you can change, but you also look at little tidbit things that you're like, hey man, it's a a little thing here. You ever thought about that? So you kind of look at the bull riding a little bit different, knowing that you're a head coach now.
In your opinion, what does the team series do for current and future generations of bull riders?
Well, I guess I'm just with everybody else on that. hope and pray that it's a huge positive thing, for bull riding. Lord willing, I'll have a boy someday, and maybe he'll want to ride bulls. And I already have a bunch of nephews that probably going to be involved anyways. But yeah, I mean, I think you've heard it before of just leaving the better footprint behind us than we showed up with. And man, I think I came at the right time in life. It feels like from the start, everything has continued to get better and more opportunity the whole time. And I think this is just another step and opportunity for the young guys. There's opportunity there, but you got to have the appreciation and go get it yourself too. That's something that each of those guys got to work out themselves. But I think there's big opportunity. When we start drafting those guys every year, that coaches and managers, even the players are going to start looking forward to turning 18 years old and hope for that draft. Just like in other sports, that that we have this big banquet and little cowboys sitting around round tables and going up to make the announcement. Oklahoma Freedom has first round draft pick, and we pick Joe Blow. I mean, you put your name in there, and that guy could sign a 5-year multi-million-dollar contract. I mean, we could be that. Not that we're not a major league sport, but we could pay our guys like they are as well.
So I play a lot of fantasy sports, so I've done numerous snake drafts in my life, and that's the kind of draft you're going to have coming up here. You're going to have the 8th and 9th pick, or 8th and 9th picks. Have you already been kind of formulating a game plan as far as who you think might be there and who you're kind of targeting with those picks?
Yes. I mean, like I have a full running roster or list of Cowboys on on my phone. I feel like anytime I get a break or I get done with the bull riding, I might make little notes in there. So I mean, you're scouting them all. I think those top 10 guys in the PBR. I think top 10 guys in the world. I think a lot of people will see them face value, and I think when you start getting that second round is when there's going to be a lot of difference of opinions. And I like this guy better than that guy. I like his training mentality, and I like where this guy's going in life. Whatever. I think there might be difference of opinions, but we're all picking from the same group of guys or drafting from them. I think there's just going to be difference of opinions on some of those, on who you think's better than others. And then you want to make your team. I mean, if your strategy is XYZ and you're looking for a team captain and a leader, you want some youth, whatever that you want to add to it. I think each team's going to kind of be looking for different things. Each draft pick.
Rank Ride Fantasy Bull Riding is free to play in 2022. Make your picks for PBR riders and bulls and get in on the action. The year-end champion will receive a VIP trip for 2 to PBR World Finals in Fort Worth, Texas, and a custom Rank Ride Bragging Rights buckle. Follow Rank Ride Facebook and keep up with great giveaways on the Rank Ride Fantasy Instagram page. Rank Ride Fantasy, your connection to the Western lifestyle you love. Sign up to play free at rankridefantasy.com.
Man, listening to Cord talk about, him being a head coach for this team deal really has me excited for the team draft that's coming up here in roughly a month, little over a month after the World Finals get over in Fort Worth. I'm really excited about it, and I think a lot of other people are too. We're getting close to that. It's time for people to start picking their teams, and I'm excited to see how it all shakes out, no doubt about it. But our next interview in this mix-up is going to be with Bonner Bolton and Slade Long. So we didn't know that Slade was going to jump on the call when it happened, when we recorded this. It was a spontaneous thing. We didn't have that much time to prepare. But I think anybody who knows and pays attention to PBR knows Bonner's story, knows that he had a really bad wreck. He had to deal with that, face the challenges with it, and he's done an outstanding job in just trying to get Rank Ride going and give fans an opportunity to really get involved with the skin in the game aspect of other sports and bring it to professional bull riding. I'm all for it. I'm all behind it. I love fantasy sports. But besides the Rank Ride aspect of this, Bonner's just a really interesting guy. He's really intelligent. He knows a lot about a lot of different stuff and has found a way to turn life's challenges into success. And I respect the heck out of this guy. So sit back and relax. And here's Bonner and Slade.
Hey, everybody. James and Cooper here, and we're blessed to be joined by one of my really good friends that I've known for over a decade, the one and only Bonner Blue Bolton.
I'll back up a little bit. I grew up in Odessa, Texas, way out in West Texas, kind of close to El Paso. And I grew up on a big ranch out there. And my mom's side of the family is all ranchers, and that ranch has been around since 1903. So I grew up horseback, being a cowboy, and used to watch my dad's old videos and look at his pictures on the wall. And that's where they messed up right there. That's when it all got started. When me and my brother used to jump on each other's backs in the living room and buck around on the trampoline, and we'd ride anything that moved. The goats in the goat pen, calf in the calf pen. Used to get on calves in the branding pen. We'd pick up Dad's old suitcase, pull them out of the closet, and get that handle suitcase back when there used to be handle suitcases, if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And we just jump around, buck around on that suitcase. So to answer your question directly, yes, my dad is the major reason. And I think we were born with it. Like, I think even before that, like just riding horses or anything, we just loved riding growing up.
So that's one interesting thing you bring up horses, because I think there's a direct correlation between time on horseback and success riding bulls. Would you agree with that, Bonner?
Oh, 100%. Excuse me, I'm smoking a cigar right now. But yeah, I believe riding horseback is one of the best things for anybody to try to beat around a horse. Or there's a saying, I believe Woodrow Wilson, or one of those great men back then, said, there's nothing better for the inside of a man than the outside of a horse. And I think maybe Ronald Reagan said that at one point. Maybe he quoted somebody else, but that's a true statement. I can vouch for that growing up. Like, being around horses, being horseback taught me more than anything else I've ever learned about myself and about being a cowboy and just being a good person in general. When you start to understand a horse, you begin to understand humans better too, I think. That's it.
Did you ever try anything different besides bull riding? I know your brother at one point was a saddle bronc rider.
That's a good question. I did try saddle bronc riding, and that's a good story too, because I tried it twice in college. And I thought, watching my brother in high school and college, damn, that looks cool. I'm going to try that. and he made it look easy. My brother's a really talented bronc rider. Shout out to my brother Brody. And he is one of the most renowned custom leather craftsmen out there in the U.S. So anybody that wants a good custom leather product, check out 3B Leather on Instagram. So Brody, yeah, he's always been one of my heroes. And in college, I tried to jump on a couple broncs in the college practice pen. And the first time I got on the lowest horse in the picking order, probably the least difficult horse to ride, and they called him Technicolor. He was a big brown and white paint horse, big old fat, just sorry son of a bitch. And he was a lot of fun, though. They put all the beginners on him, and I rode him pretty well. I rode him with the same hand I ride bulls with, and that was my right hand. And I thought, I'm just going to do this, and I felt too much like I was kind of riding bull. So the next time I switched hands, I got him rode, and he didn't do much. So that felt too easy. So the next time I picked the best horse in the pen, and I went ahead and picked old Wolf Boy. And Wolf Boy was, for back then, I mean, all those college guys, I think, would have kind of equivalated him to a 85 to 87 point horse at a pro rodeo. Like,
yeah.
And, gosh dang, I switched hands. I said, hell, I'm going to ride with my horseback riding hand. I'm going to go left-handed this time and build up my left hand, my left arm. And so I switched hands, and I mean, he stood me up in my stirrups the second jump and called me up on my head so hard out there. It felt like somebody took a Louisville Slugger to my head. And I said, y'all can have this shit. It's a lot further to the ground off these horses.
So has that always been your personality, though? Kind of just jump on off into the deep end? Like, let's see if we're going to sink or swim here.
I think so, because that's kind of how Dad started us out. I mean, he let us get on some pretty rank shit over our head from the word go. And I think that, and when we started riding bulls, me and my brother also rode bulls too, and rode really good. He was probably more naturally talented than me, to be honest with you. And I really wasn't that naturally talented. I had to work really hard at it, but I just loved it so much. And my dad really had a big part to do in how me and Brody learned. You know, my dad rode pretty good and really taught us the basics starting out, made us really practice a lot on the barrel and learn and understand our mechanics and workout regimen and routine, and built that drive into us even before he let us start competing, you know. And I've really seen that express itself in Rocker Steiner and Sid Steiner, the way the Steiner family has trained their offspring. I was going to say they've got a good bloodline going over there, but also a good mindset and just overall philosophy on life. They're champions for men and just good living altogether, and really try to showcase that in their lifestyle and how they treat people and live their life. And it shows, you know, and they're just champions in life more than the arena. And I've learned a lot from those guys. But my dad was sort of that same way, but threw me and Brody off out there into competition and in the deep end, in the practice pen, right off the bat to see if we wanted it that bad, you know, and I think really test us. And we did. We got wrecked out a lot, but kept getting back up and getting back after it, and just loved it and took off from there. And some of the best advice I ever heard was Chase Outlaw's grandpa, Sam. He looked like Yosemite Sam from the Arkansas hills. He's a
hey, back off these Arkansas folks now.
Yeah, no offense. That's Chase Outlaw is one of my best friends in the world, and my brother, I love him to death, and his family, and they've taught me some of the most valuable lessons in my life, I can say, and this is one of them. His grandpa told me one time, and I quote, "In order to be successful in life, you have to learn how to improvise, adapt, and overcome." You know, and that is truly the recipe for success. I've learned in and out and tried to do it all kinds of ways, and that's the most, you know, bulletproof, sure enough, way to grow and get better in life is to improvise, adapt, and overcome, and try to learn and get hands-on with whatever you're doing.
A lot of people know you were on Dancing with the Stars, and Ty Murray even said after he did it that if he were still competing, that he would recommend ballroom dancing as far as getting in shape for it. Is that something that you would actually look into and recommend for other guys, whether they're on Dancing with the Stars or just doing it to train?
100%. I definitely believe that my balance and my overall agility and coordination got so much better than it even was before when I was a bull rider. My body's not as durable as it used to be, but those mechanics and functions got better. Whereas even just 3 or 4 months before that, I was just barely able to run and walk again and get around well after 7 months after I broke my neck.
Since we have both you guys here, you guys are a big part of why ranked ride's a thing now. What was really the motivation as far as wanting to get into the fantasy sports realm of things? It's gotten really popular with a lot of other sports, but what made you really think it would work with bull riding specifically?
So I had a brand builder come to me, you know, after some of the modeling and stuff, what led us to that conversation. I wanted to sort of direct some of that. Well, really at that time, I put all of my career earnings, bull riding and modeling and all the other stuff directly out of my own pocket into this to get it started. And then a small group of friends and family, shout out to Chase Outlaw, some other guys that I'm good friends with, Bryn Roy, my mom and dad, my grandparents, Jerry Davis, our biggest investor. Awesome group of people and developers came together, such as Slade Long and some of our other team members, Lori Burt Hornback, Jim Dearman, Michelle Sly. She helped found Ride TV. Our idea for this was simply based on the fact that there's nothing like it out there in the market. We see it working in all the other sports. It creates such a great community among you and your friends to be able to interact and kind of compete against each other and get that living room beef going with your whoever your friends are, and something to get excited and spill your beer over if you win, some money and awesome giveaways. So we felt like it was just a great way for fans to get connected to the sport and each other, and everybody just to have more fun with what's already fun. And now we're moving into this whole team series thing with PBR, where records and stats have never become more important for team draft picks and that's
going to be interesting. That's going to be an interesting thing when the teams come around, because sometimes the bull riders themselves have a hard time picking what would be the best bull for them. To me, when they're allowed to pick, if I could pick for all of them, I've seen a lot of cases where I would have picked a different bull.
But it makes sense to me, that whole process, because bull riding is such a streaky sport. The guy can be hot for 4 weeks and then he can be cold for 2 months. So it makes sense that they move around a lot.
That's what makes it one of the hardest sports to do what we're trying to do with it, in order to provide the most accurate information to the player, to the consumer of the game and the product. And nobody's really got it perfectly dialed in yet, but we've got a good head start. And we do provide odds on every matchup, which is, very unique to us as a brand. That's part of our IP. And one of the things that we're proud of with Slade and our team that we've developed, and being able to run the odds on every matchup. And I think that's going to become more and more valuable for these teams to really use that process in line with their picks and their matches for their team players. I think overall there's a lot of people who make a lot of money now playing fantasy sports, which is good for anybody new listening to your podcast to know, who doesn't understand fantasy sports. I mean, plain and simple, you got a dog in the fight when you come to our website. You pick your favorite riders and your favorite bulls to create your own fantasy team. It's like being a team owner, but just virtually online. And that's the funnest part to me, is because everybody's always, before we came along or any of those other things, everybody in our sport has always had their money riding on somebody, privately, behind the scenes. And we're just trying to make that broadly available to people.
So Whoopa has definitely changed his tracks as of late. He's not as a surefire bet to stay to the left.
He's definitely switched his program up. And that's what's good for people listening to your podcast. Let me back up to that last statement too. It makes podcasts and what we're doing here so much more valuable for this inside type of information, people within the sport who know what's going on, to educate the listeners about the sport. There's not enough of that in the TV broadcast from week to week, that people just kind of get the bare raw action. This really explains the how and the why, and just the average viewer who's never ridden bulls would not know, but these animals can get smarter and are highly intelligent, and Whoopa is one of those for sure. I rode bulls for, I guess, 19 years, and Slade rode bulls for how long?
I'm about 15 to 17, I bet.
Yes, sir, and was a pro bull rider himself, and Slade's been doing disruptive things in the technology space with the industry since, how long has Pro bull stats been there?
Since 1999.
Since 1999, back when the rise of Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Yeah.
I was already 30 something by then, so I don't know who Bone Thugs and Harmony are. Sorry.
Oh yeah, you did too. We know you were bumping Bone Thugs and Harmony while you were typing on the keyboard.
I was probably listening to Metallica back then.
It was really fun getting to interview Bonner and Slade. I'd never gotten to talk to Slade before, and what an intelligent guy to think of the pro bull stats concept and just look at things through a different lens. which is never a bad thing when you're talking about wanting to grow the industry, grow the sport. You need people to think outside the box a little bit, no doubt about it. So we definitely hope to have those two on again at some point down the road. They were definitely interesting to talk to. But next, we'll get into our interview with Casey Decker. And I didn't know much about Casey before we started. James had known him for a long time. But man, Casey's an incredible individual. He's got his hands in a lot of different types of businesses, from the Bucking Bulls to CBD to all sorts of different stuff, production. He's got a lot on his plate, no doubt about it. Just an awesome guy. You can tell the passion he has for the sport of bull riding and rodeo. So kick back, relax, and here is Casey Decker.
Both of our really good friend Bonner Bolton had a huge part in creating a fantasy bull riding called RankRideFantasy.com. And what are your thoughts on that, and how is that going to increase the viewership, increase the butts in the seat, so to speak, at bull ridings?
Oh, I think it's a great deal that he's doing. I mean, honestly, there's never been anything done like this with rodeo before. And I think it's awesome. It's something, a new aspect of it, and something that will bring in fans and bring in a new base, because like I talked before, we have to have new fans. We have to have new people in the industry to make this industry keep growing and to evolve. Well, part of the evolution of this is being able to be on the same level as all the other sporting events and all the other sports teams and all the other sports in the United States, or around the world for that matter. And everything else has a fantasy league. So it's awesome that he's doing something where people can go on, compete. They don't necessarily have to be part of the sport, but it actually puts them involved with the sport and allows them to be part of the sport by allowing them to participate in something as far as gambling, betting on it, guessing, playing the fantasy side of it. So I think it's something that's awesome for the industry. And I think, it's going to continue to grow, and I don't see where it could ever go wrong, especially when you see as big as, fantasy football is, and, all these different things that people do, even like the March Madness, how people are doing, the different things with March Madness, different fantasy brackets, things like that. It's the same aspect. It's just a different sport, and it's definitely going to grow, and it'll get more people involved.
I think the one unique part about fantasy sports is the biggest demographic in it is 18 to 34-year-olds. And that's where you're going to get new fans that are going to stay hooked for 30, 40, 50 years, is that demographic. And if you can reach people that maybe aren't even, like you said, bull riding or rodeo fans, and get them interested in it and wanting to play, I think it does nothing but help the sport grow.
No, I agree with that. And being able to help the sport grow and being able to do things like that. And like you said, 18 through 34, those are the people that are the main ticket buyers, right? So those are the people that are going to put butts in the seats, because those are the people that are looking to do things on the weekends. Those are the people that are going to go out and want to go out and have fun and be part of the sports and be active, So that's being in that demographic, that's a huge part of it, I believe. And I think it's great. I think it's going to help our sport grow tremendously.
So we were kind of talking about this last night with Bonner, and it's kind of been a thing in rodeo for a long time, like with Calcuttas. Those are pretty popular at different events, and people love them. They love to have skin in the game. And I think adding fantasy to it on a virtual level gives more people the opportunity to really put their foot down and say, hey, this guy is going to win this deal. He's going to do well. And anytime you have that involved with watching a product, you're going to be more vested in it. You're going to be more interested, more excited. You're going to be more likely to tune into it and be excited about it. So I think overall, it's just like you said, the growth of the sport is so important right now, because we're kind of, like you mentioned too, a dying breed, right? There was a time being cowboy was cool, but it's kind of gotten away from that. And Yellowstone's helping that to an extent, but anything that can add to that, I think, is good for the industry. And we need that in our industry right now.
No, I agree with that. And, speaking of Calcuttas, you go to Calcuttas and you see people that are just there hanging out, just sitting in the seats, that will be involved in the Calcuttas just because they're sports fans and they like to bet. And that's what this is allowing. It's not just so much about, any kind of bull riding fans, it's about sports fans in general and people that are willing to bet on something and like to bet on things. It's going to get more people involved, and the more people that are involved, the better. And the more people we can put in the seats, the better. It's overall, the more money that's coming into the industry is better. And, even people that get on and they might be a sports fan, maybe they own a big company and they bet on something in the fantasy deal. They decide they like it. Next year, they're a sponsor, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. And that's what helps with the growth, is just getting out there and diversifying in different ways to figure out the best way to make it, manageable for other people to be part of the sport as well, even though that they aren't part of it. And maybe they don't want to own cattle. Maybe they don't want to go to the rodeos, but at least they're supporting our sport in different ways.
What started the Buckers Unlimited? You just didn't have the opportunities up there, and you just wanted to create your own little bucking for charities and things like that around your area?
Yeah. So what we did with that is, we have all these cattle and we never had anywhere to really take them other than travel south, 10, 12 hours. So I started putting on just open for charities at my house, and then a couple other people did. So I formed a team of people around here in Colorado, and we decided to start Buckers Unlimited. I was the first person to ever co-sanction anything with the ABBI, any outside event other than ABBI events. I was the first one to get that done. I was the first one to ever, Chase Love had done it before, I guess, too. But, Chase Love and I, we put on sales and do the, incentive the very next day. That way people could buy their bulls. Next day, you do an incentive. That way, you might spend some money on a bull, but you can win your money back the very next day, So, we've started that. We've done a bunch of different things, for the industry that are good. And, it's just up here, there's nowhere to go. So it offers people a place from, South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, Colorado, Nebraska, a place for us all to compete where we don't have to drive as far south. And I mean, they're just as professional of events as well as they're, all sanctioned with the ABBI. So you can get your ABBI points. You can, if you don't want to do your ABBI points, you don't even have to bring a registered animal, as long as the animal's of age. I can tell if you're bringing a 3-year-old to the 2-year-old class or a 2-year-old to the yearling class. So, it's kind of on the honor system in that point. But, we don't care what you have as long as you bring something that bucks. That's what we're looking for.
Something pretty cool coming up in Fort Worth with Chancey Williams.
Yeah, so we're doing we're putting on the ABBI Derby and the PBR after party. So we got Chancey Williams. He's going to be there. He's going to play. And then we're going to do the Derby, the ABBI Derby for the bull riding there. So we originally scheduled it, is going to be Chancey, and is going to be, a 20,000 added bull ride. And, at the end of the day, we'd had it scheduled for a while, and the PBR decided to change their schedule, as far as their finals goes, to May. And we already had that date secured at the Will Rogers. And, instead of, there's no way we can compete with somebody like that, especially the PBR finals. So we just decided, instead of trying to do something on our own, we decided to work with them. So they made it a little bit easier, and it helped with our marketing as well as it helped them get an after party. And, we're going to do a 10,000 added bull ride and put some money to the, the Derby class for the heritage. So it'll be, we're going to put up some bonus money and, just try and make it a really good bull ride for anybody that didn't make the finals that wants to be involved.
Oh, right on. Or do you know if they're going to make it like a one of the first challengers or touring pros or anything like that? Just an open
No, but it'll just be part of it'll just be an ABBI that'll be part of my series. So we have, we put on a bunch of big bull rides throughout the year, and this will be probably the second biggest one. We do Brush. I told you about Brush. That's over last year. I think it was the second biggest event, futurity event, other than the American Heritage, or I guess the finals, but you can't really count the finals. But we had 280 entries, I think, 110 yearlings we bucked, paid 10 grand to win it. We're going to try and pay 12,000 to win the bull riding this year, and I pay 10 grand cash. Like, I go get cash from the bank and I hold 10 grand cash, and whoever wins it, I give them 10 grand cash right there. So, I mean, for being an open bull riding, it was, it's pretty much the biggest open bull riding around as far as the best paying open bull riding that you can go to. And, so we have this whole series that we do, and I'll have probably 6 or 7 others, that we do throughout the year that are big ones. I got one here in my hometown that I live in now. Well, Brush was my hometown. That's where I grew up. And now I live in Bennett. So we'll have a big bull ride in Bennett where we just, the city got Little Texas to come in. So we're going to have, a big concert during that. And it's a town festival, and we do it right in park. So it's a pretty cool event. And that'll be our bull team finals, because we do, this whole bull team series throughout the summer too.
Right on. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. So when you guys are doing these events, when you're talking Derby bulls or classic bulls or even a bull team, Do you guys do bring your own rider, or is it a random draw on the rider end of it?
So what I do at my bull rides at I let guys pick their bulls. I don't do random draw. I don't do anything like that. I let guys pick their bulls. And then if it's a bull team event, you can bring your own rider. If it's a classic, we urge you to bring your own rider. But at the end of the day, if the bulls aren't covered, I let guys pick what they want to get on. I don't care what they get on. I just want to give them money. Like, I want them to ride. I want them to make the whistle. So I want them to get on bulls that they know they can ride. That makes for a better show, and it makes their confidence better. It makes bull riders better. It gives them a little money in their pocket so they can travel more, hit more bull riding. So, a lot of people like the random draw, but at the end of the day, I don't really care what they get on. If they find something they want to get on and they think they can ride it, if they're 82 points and they didn't pick enough bull, that's on them.
So speaking of guitar pickers at this event at the finals in Fort Worth, was Chancey Williams like the number one pick? Because I really like him. I've seen him I think 4, 5, 6 times, something like that, and I've never been disappointed. So was he right up there at the top of the list to get for that deal?
Yeah, he's who we originally wanted to have for it. So that's I know him. I know Ray Tom, one of his guys that he's actually in charge of his merchandise and things. And I've been friends with Ray Tom for a long time. And, those guys are great people. And they're good to work with. They're easy to deal with. So he was our first choice right away, right off the bat. And that's who we wanted to go with. So that's why we called him and got him booked. So.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I've met him a couple times when I've seen him play, and you're not going to meet a nicer guy. Just humble, he talks to everybody, really thankful for his fans. The first time I ever seen him, it was in a podunk college bar in the town I was going to college in, and he was opening for a cover band, and that was only 6-7 years ago. So that shows you how far he's really came in a short amount of time. He's gotten really, really popular.
Yeah, no, I remember when I was in college, he used to play the Casper College Rodeo all the time there at the Beacon, back when it was the old Beacon, and when it was that little bitty building right across from the fairgrounds or whatever. And yeah, he used to play there, after the college rodeo, and man, it was a good time. That's the first time I ever met him was during then. And then, I met him a few times after that, in Laramie, where we'd go party after he played and, things like that back when he was in Laramie. And that was still when I was in college, I guess, probably. So I've been around him for a long time and seen him play for a long time. And his band is, stellar, and he's a great musician and songwriter. So, he was our number one choice, and he's who we wanted because, like I said, we try and stick together as far as cowboys are. And there's so many country artists you can get that aren't actual cowboys. And it's cool to have somebody that is a cowboy and, just help push them along as much as possible. I think as far as Fort Worth goes too, it's not only is it good to get Chancey and have his, his fan base, but being in the PBR finals and being the after party that's going on there, there's going to be a lot of people that show up to it, so hopefully it helps him gain some new fans, people that haven't seen him before, and people can understand, what he's actually about. So.
Speaking of that, is that why specifically that you got into the CBD game was for your own body?
Partially why I got into it. Another big part of it there's a huge market for it. And after I've seen the things that, that it'll do for people and does for animals, it's a no-brainer. And there's just so many people that have decided to grow hemp and be involved in the industry now that it's a good industry to be in. And even though we're still at the beginning of it, it's still something that people enjoy and people need. And, the big part about it is with that, same as anything else, is trying to educate people on it, because a lot of people don't know anything about it. And, being able to educate them about it and let them know, this is not marijuana. This is a hemp product. This is what it can do for your body. You have natural cannabinoids in your body that they attach to, which actually helps your body grow. And, a lot of people, I've had people tell me, they're allergic to CBD. And I'm like, that is the biggest line of crap I've ever heard, because realistically, there's only 3 places on the face of the planet that CBD is produced. It's the marijuana plant, the hemp plant, and a mammal mother's breast milk. So when you're born, your mom's breastfeeding you, you're going to be getting CBD in your body anyways, because it's a natural immune system. You have natural cannabinoid receptors in your body that actually take that CBD and it actually attaches to them. And that's what helps keep you healthy. So a lot of people don't understand that. And a lot of people think that it's so bad, but then once they start seeing it, or once they start utilizing it and start seeing what it does for animals, start seeing what it does for them, start seeing what it does for anybody else, then, you can actually stand behind it and realize that it's not as bad of a deal as everybody thinks it is. And realistically, the only reason hemp ever got outlawed was because of the logging industry. Because, you know, all the people in the logging industry back in the day, they were all presidents, they were all, you know, politicians, things like that. They had all that money invested in logging, and you can grow one field of hemp in 6 months compared to a tree that takes 10 years to grow, right? So you can make everything out of hemp that you can make out of a tree. And it's, you know, it's just crazy that it even got outlawed in the first place. So,
yeah, I've definitely dealt with people that have that, what you're talking about, the misconception about what CBD is, you know, and it's just misinformation. They just don't know. When they do learn and realize that, yeah, it's not the marijuana that everybody, so some people kind of find the taboo in. I mean, I've seen it work. My dad uses it, and he was in that camp, you know, kind of that generation where blah, 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 that's bad stuff. But he likes it, and he said he has really good success with it. And if it helps him manage his pain, I'm all for it.
No, my dad's the exact same way. He's the most anti-marijuana person you've ever met in your whole damn life. Like, literally, no marijuana, no dope smoking, he calls it, none of that shit. He doesn't like any of that. He's 100% against it. Now, obviously, the state I live in, and the times I live in, you drive anywhere, there's a marijuana shop on any damn corner that you drive by. But at the end of the day, my dad, he uses it as well. And once he started using the CBD, I started giving him crap. And he actually started using it because his wife's dog was getting old and that dog could hardly move around. So they started feeding that dog CBD, and he watched what it did to that dog. And he was like, oh man, that stuff's not too bad. So then he started taking it. Now he's like, it's like a drug to him. He's like, hey, I'm out of my CBD. I need some more of that. I'm like, okay.
It was awesome getting to interview Casey and learn more about him. He's such a unique individual. I definitely look forward to getting to know him more as time goes on. And I hope you guys enjoyed the content with Casey. But before we wrap this up, I'd just like to apologize once again, guys. It's been tough the last couple weeks for us to get regular content out. I've been doing this little run with the PBR, and it's been busy. When we aren't working, we're trucking. It's been a really busy 10-day stretch, and that's part of the side of the industry that people don't see when you're watching on TV, is it takes a lot of work to put these events on. So as much as I like as much bull riding on TV as possible, these weekday bull ridings really create a lot of work for everybody involved with the PBR. So just keep them in your thoughts, because it takes a lot of work, and it's definitely been a run. But we're here in Tulsa now. We're getting ready. We're going to start working tomorrow for the UTB event this weekend. I believe it's a classic night on Friday night here. So we're going to have the younger up-and-coming superstar animal athletes in the house. It's going to be a good weekend of bull riding, and I'm excited for it. I will leave everybody's social medias in the episode notes if you want to look any of these guys up. And thanks for being patient with us, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. It's not ideal, I get that, but we're doing what we can right now with the situation we have. So thanks for tuning in. We appreciate everybody who's listening and supported us. It's meant a lot. So thanks, guys. And until next time, have a great week, and come back and visit us again from the back pens.